Hello, everyone. Is it too bright? Oh, that's better. You can see my face better. Sort of. Should I get rid of this one too? No, it's okay. It's always lighting stuff I have to take care of. All right, everyone. Today I am talking about my first 3 months of therapy. And quick background for those who are popping in for the first time, I'm 39 years old. And this past year, when I was 38, I was diagnosed with Asperger's and PTSD, and I've been in therapy for 3 months. And I've just talked to um, my therapist this week about taking a break for about 6 weeks from just therapy, and then still going to group. So I also went to group during those 3 months, and I'll be going to group for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Hey, old school Dave, what's up? Still, while I'm taking a break from one-on-one therapy. And now I'm just trying to talk a little bit about my experience with that for those who are curious or anxious about starting therapy, or just wondering what it's like, especially if you have any of the things that I deal with. The first thing I wanted to mention was I I was never seen by a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I was only helped, hey Frank, by social workers, which is different. It's a different training. You can be a social worker without having had to take a bunch of psychology courses. And I only know this from having looked into this when I was going to school. I thought about going into social work at one point, and I was kind of a geek about majors, and I would look through them and stuff. And it's very different. It's more of, you can tell, I could tell going in that the people that were working with me were not that trained in therapy or psychotherapy, and I only know that from my own training that I received uh, in psych nursing when I was in nursing school, because I used to be a nurse. And right off the bat, like first couple meetings with my counselor, or my therapist, I could tell right away they didn't have a lot of training. Now, having talked to them, I didn't get any specific numbers as far as like years and things like that, but they did say that they had experience, some cumulative experience in counseling. But again, it's different. um, and I don't know. At first, I was really put off. I was really put off by it at first. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. I could do this person's job. But that's not why. I'm to myself. That's not why I'm here. I'm not here to evaluate this person on their job. And I ended up sticking with it, and I just to stick with it and try it out, because I felt that where I was strong enough to catch things that might be unhealthy from my therapist. I know that sounds terrible, and something you don't really want to hear, but I it just comes from, like, for example, when we were taught, and this just might be a school of therapy, I don't know. We were taught when I was taking my psych nursing course, um, that to relate things to our life and share that with your patient or your client or whatever. What this does actually is, this client, this patient, or myself is digging into a past memory. They've probably had to go pretty far deep into a bunch of like hazy, painful, dark places to pull out um, these memories and to talk about them with you. And first of all, you suddenly jumping in and diverting that like the Red Sea and being like, well, when I was out with my girlfriend for brunch the other day and my mom said this, it made me feel like this. And that's kind of like what you like. First of all, when she would do this common thing that we had to train out of doing when I went through psych nursing. Um, and receiving it as a client was really enlightening as to why it's not helpful, because I first of all, I couldn't keep up with the first part of her story that was supposed to relate to me, that actually had to do with her life, because suddenly I have to come out of the forest, the dark forest that is my brain, and try to get back. Okay, so now I'm in her life. I don't know what that's like. Now I'm at this place with these people I don't know, and then I have to try to think, okay, what is she trying to say to me? And in the end, I don't really get what she's trying to say to me. And so that what you want to do is, when your own lessons or memories are triggered in some way, is you just go straight to the point and you offer them up to the client as like food for thought. You don't have to go into this whole story of your life. They don't. It's not helpful, and and they're going to have a hard time keeping up with you anyway. And it really just takes the focus off of the patient and focuses it back onto you, and makes it feel more like you're trying to connect with just a person, like out in public, where it should stay patient focused. It should stay, try to be with them in their little place that they have allowed you into, and stay there. You can't just come in and out of that quickly, especially when you first start. And it just sounds like some casual friend trying to give you advice when they have no idea what you're actually going through. All these reasons, but she would do this constantly. She ended up, by the end, she didn't do it very much. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just she picked up on my energy when she would start to do it. Like, this is not helpful. But so just things like that, things that another thing that they would do, because for me it seemed like this person doesn't have a lot of training in actual counseling. She might have studied um like society and how they impact individuals, like from I was a sociology major, so I understand that, and she might have studied, like, on paper, like the DSM-5 that explains all of the mental diagnoses, and she might be able to rattle off these symptoms that go for what diagnosis. But it doesn't mean that she was actually, I don't know how much training, if any, she actually received, and how to conduct therapy, and especially talk therapy. I don't know how much training she actually received in that, and it's likely that it was not very much, if at all. Um, uh, but the reason why I ended up staying with it was because she did seem sincere, and I felt like I didn't really have any other choices. One, because I think this is kind of what this is what this facility did. It was connected to the hospital. There's not many other options, like places to go. And this is just where I had to be. And I couldn't just request a new counselor. I couldn't just call the front desk and say, I want to try someone new. Like, I would have had to talk to her first, and about wanting to see somebody else. And I almost did that one time, but I just decided not to. I just decided against it for some reason right there, like in the room. But anyway, I ended up staying with her, one, because I was just too intimidated to try to find something else. I didn't want to become already like a problem patient. And she did seem sincere, and she seemed to not be as frightened of me. And even she said this, that I do come off very intimidating, I guess, to a lot of people. And uh, she didn't seem as bothered by that. And that's so unusual for me, that I ended up just giving her a chance and sticking with it. And I'm really glad that I did. That I Because overall, I think it has helped. It did help, uh, as far as you helping me with my anxiety, and finding peace about certain events that, um, like in my life. But I think it was just more the process. It was just more the process that helped. And it really didn't have much to do with her, if that makes sense. She did provide a presence that was not intimidated by me. And that every now and then, and this is also what kept me, was that from every session, there would be one thing that she would point out to me, um, that I hadn't thought about, uh, or that, yeah, that I hadn't thought about. And that's how you gain respect with me. I'm like, oh, I haven't thought about that. Okay. And I think about everything. So I'm kind of impressed by you. Old School Dave says finding a good therapist is hard, but glad she got your diagnosis on paper, though. Yeah, me too. If anything, it was good to do that. It was good to get a diagnosis on paper. Um, and to have that validated for myself, because now I can talk more freely about things like Asperger's and autism, and not have to joke that I had PTSD. Just like, okay, I actually do have PTSD. but um, but anyway, I can also see at the same time how a person who doesn't know about therapy, like how could get frustrated, and how some of the things that I thought she was doing could actually harm a person who was less educated about their rights, educated about what therapy is supposed to do for you, educated or just less confident as a person and where they're at and what they want from this therapy. Because a lot of people go into therapy, I feel like, not having as much um, they don't have a lot of expectations. They don't know what to expect, and they don't really even know what to expect for themselves. And I kind of was more driven in that way. I I kind of knew, I felt a little bit comfortable in the area, like mentally, maybe not necessarily being at a counseling place, but I don't know. And I kind of knew what I wanted out of it and what I needed, and I think that helps a lot. And then making that known helped a lot. But sometimes she would, like another example that would just like scream, I'm a novice, is that sometimes she would just tell me things about myself that she didn't know. Like one time she just told me, and it was their second or third meeting, that she thinks I have a lot of pent up anger that I need to access and let out. And I thought that was really interesting. And I didn't comment on it. Uh, and I just thought, this girl just doesn't know me. She doesn't know me very well. It's really interesting that she's just telling me this, because a more impressionable person would take this as Bible, would take this as God's truth, that some therapist told them that they have a lot of anger inside of them and that they need to find it and deal with it and release it. And that you can really mess with people's minds and really mess with people's lives if that's not healthy. You if that's true, you facilitate that and you allow that to come forward. But just like on the second session, just looking at someone and saying, yeah, I think you're filled with a lot of anger, and it's just like, you can harm people by saying that. You can't just tell people what you think they are. Allow them to tell you who they are and realize it. Anyway, it's just stuff like that. I'm making it sound like it was really terrible, but um uh and I don't know if it's just because there's probably, they seemed like it was like a lot of places in healthcare is probably a need for qualified people. There's probably a lack of qualified people. And it seemed like there were maybe like a couple actual psychologists or actual psychiatrists in the building that kind of oversaw a bunch of social workers, because social workers are a lot less expensive to keep on staff than, to become an actual psychologist. I believe you have to go through years beyond. Like, I think you have to do a fellowship beyond med school. So it's a lot of schooling, and they're very expensive, I can imagine. Let's see what we got going on here in the comments. Frank says, coming off as intimidating, I think oftentimes it is because if there is a lack of conformity, people question why that is and don't know how to respond appropriately. Yeah, that's definitely the first. That is one of the reasons. And I mentioned that before. I think I phrased it as not knowing what box to put me in. Um, they're like, oh, I don't. It just puts people back. Like, you're not like everyone else, and she's told me that I encounter, and I kind of don't know how to interact with you. Frank goes on and says it throws people off their center, and many of the regular quote unquote people don't know how to cope with this. Yes. Hey, Soko, what's up? Um, and then there were just other things that just weren't helpful. Like, gosh, I didn't mean for it to just be a drag. That, like one time she told me that I should move. Maybe I should move. And I was like, really? I later asked her why she told me this, because it kind of took me back that she had said this to me. Uh, and I think she said something like, it's just always, I probably said it because it's always good to expand your horizons and experience other people and places. So really, she just kind of gave me a generic answer, and she probably wasn't that honest with me. If I'm going to be completely honest about why she said it, I just thought that was a very unhelpful answer or response to what I was telling her at the time, because my issue that I was struggling with was my relationship between me and others. And I was telling her that I took this big, long car trip um, uh, over throughout half the United States and went down to Mississippi to the West Coast and back. And one of the huge things that I learned from that was that there's not, like, I keep feeling there's going to be this place where I feel like I belong, for some reason, where there are people who will get me or whatever. And what I learned from that trip was that there is no magical place. There's no magical fucking place where I just belong and everyone understands me, that my issues are both with me and with just society, just humans, in the world the way it is right now. And those are things that I need to um, find a way to reconcile with in some way. And like, moving is not going to, you're not going to escape yourself or your issues by moving. That's what I learned from that trip. And then here I have this social worker saying, maybe you should move. And I was like, I just told you that I learned the life lesson that moving doesn't solve your problems. And this is from a person who has had a pretty nomadic life. I'm sure there are people who've had more nomadic kind of lives than I have, but I've moved around, I've lived in different places. It's not like I've been in the same spot, for 30 some years. But just stuff like that I was like, yeah, this is just a low end person, a low level counseling person. But I still was willing to go through those moments to get what I needed, which was the importance of having, it really helped to have a complete third party, non-biased perspective of things, and to have it validated to you that these are things that are common with people with PTSD. Your reactions are common for people with this. What you went through was effed up. You don't have to justify it or rationalize it or try to be like, maybe it wasn't that bad. It was effed up, and being able to hear those things from a person who does encounter a lot of people like this, or just from, like I said, a third party, was actually so healing and so helpful. And I think it really helped me a lot with a lot of the stuff I needed to put away and let go of. Did I find a lot of enlightenment? No, but I think the experience was the good that I got from the experience outweighed the everything else. And so I guess my conclusion with that would just be that to try it out and trust the process, and don't expect your therapist to be perfect or to know everything. They're just people and they're just playing a role. And so just allow the role that they're playing for you to just be that. It's just a role, and they're just an imperfect person. They don't have all the answers. But I also felt like I was, should we get back on here? Have you found any A-tubers you liked or related with? I have been finding more Aspie or autistic YouTubers. I don't know their names offhand. I should do a video about Aspie channels that I like. Frank says, man, I'm from England and I just keep moving. The last 7 years, I've lived in France, Spain, Canada, Germany, England, and again, now I'm in Portugal. That's awesome. Says, but I always feel marginally better in countries that aren't my own. But it's also true that I feel just as disillusioned wherever I am. Yeah, I can. Wow, yeah, I can relate to all of that. Soka says you're like a temporary therapist at times for me. Man, that's why I keep doing this. That's why I keep coming back, was because really what is the most healing, I feel like, for people, for neurodivergent people who need therapy or have mental health issues is just to find other people like them. You know, it's like with addiction, really the best people to help people with addictions are recovered addicts. Those are the best people. Other people struggling with addiction. You know, it's the same kind of thing I've always felt. Um, but what else was I going to say? I actually wrote a list here, guys, so that I would stay on track. Oh, there was a lot. There was a huge feeling that kind of creeped me out at first, where I just felt like I was being studied. I felt like I was doing more for them than they were for me. And that made me uncomfortable at first. But as I began to feel my constant hypervigilance seep away, and I felt myself getting better, I just kind of just let it be. I was like, you know what? Um, I mean, it's only going to help these women. I worked with women. That was just they happen to be women. If it's only going to help these women working with me, it's only going to help other people they work with by working with me. And I hated that at first. I was like, Jamie, you don't have to this is always do things because it's better for someone else and not the best for you. But I didn't have any other options. There wasn't any other options. Uh, Everyone else, I think there was an actual psychiatrist in the building, at least one, but they were completely booked up and probably with patients that um, need medication, because I wasn't getting my prescription or being evaluated for that. So I didn't have to be seen by a psychiatrist, because I don't believe social workers can write prescriptions. But that's another thing I did at weird times that I did not suspect. I did have medication I felt kind of pushed on me a little bit, like, hey, have you thought about medication again? And I would ask, do you think I need to be on medication? And they'd be like, well, a lot of people find it helpful, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I don't feel like that I'm at that place where I need to try it yet. I really if I'm going to do medication, it's going to be like I have no other choice. And I'm sticking up for my quality of life over everything else, even my fears of medication, because I need it. I need a better quality of life. And I don't know how else to do it. And so I'll try medication. That's the point I need to be at. And I'm just not at that point. I feel like I still am improving without medication. And so I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it that way, because medication, psych meds, I'm just gonna be quite honest, they freak me out, and being a nurse and understanding exactly what they do in your body and in your mind actually is not better. It might be easier for me to take it if I didn't really understand what it was doing. So, Old School Dave says, have you been creating? Yes, I have. It has slowed a little bit, but now that I have um, that I'm no longer going to be going to the counseling center twice a week. I feel like I'm going to have more time to focus. And that's another thing that I said is like, look, I need a break from this one-on-one thing. Not only have I dove through most of my issues now, but when I would go to therapy and group, it takes 2 days out of my week, the week of, because I'll be exhausted, and then the next day to recover. And so that's like 4 days, and then there's 3 other days where if I have anything else that I encounter, like I have to have a social outing or something like that, it's just I'm spending all of my time having experiences and recovering from them. And that is not good for creating. It's not good for me to heal and to feel better about myself. Um, I need to be able to establish some kind of functional, feel good life routine for me, uh, um, especially where I'm at right now, in order to continue to improve and feel better. When you're constantly recovering, experience, recover, that's how you burn out, and uh, anyway, I forget what my point was. So I now I'm only going to do group once a week, and so I'm hoping I can create more and put more time to that. So that's what I'm hoping. Let's see. I saw someone say, Osoko says you're like a temporary blah 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 blah, blah blah blah. Where was I at? Heck yeah, I'd do a video. Wow, the medication story. There it is. It's Soko. Where the medication story is like reading my mind. Yeah. I'm quite curious about that blue picture behind you. It's a drapery. It's like a fabric of some kind. It's just kind of some otherworldly scene. I can't tell if it's underwater or if it's like in space on some other planet or something. I don't know how I came across it, but I have it. I like it. It's a really magical feeling. It's got some nice colors in there. That's really it. None of it makes any sense. Like if you just start looking at what is happening in it, you're like, this doesn't make any sense. um, is your flower intake still tapered off? It has not improved since the last time I got on, which means that I haven't gotten any better, but it is still tapered off from where it was before starting therapy. And uh, I've thought about it, I would attribute the fact that I haven't been able to make any more progress on tapering my flower intake. I love how you put that. To the fact that like I said, just been constantly I've just been like experience recovery. And it's when I get into a mode of living that doesn't require recovery, that I'm able to taper off a lot more on the flower. Um, so I'm hoping that will pick up again, the tapering off. I think it's space. I've seen a Rick and Morty rip on the picture. Oh, cool. Well, anyway, gosh, it's already been 26 minutes. Did I miss? How does that even happen? I feel like I've been talking for 5 minutes. Was there anything that I missed? Oh, I feel like that therapy there is not going to help me with Asperger's or autism or being a person on the spectrum, a late diagnosed Aspie person. I've tried to push it multiple times, and I just get answers that show me that they have nothing to do for me. There's nothing, and I get things like I do have other clients that express your same sentiments and stuff, but there's nothing we can do. We don't have any programs. We don't know what to do with you. We don't even understand what you're asking for. And they don't say those things directly, but they say it in a roundabout kind of wordy, I'm afraid to actually tell you that kind of way. It's coffee. And which is really sad. I mean, I was expecting, at least I got a diagnosis, and they do seem to be educated more about the Asperger profile of ASD and this kind of late diagnosis thing that's popped up because of our lack of education beforehand and all that kind of stuff. But and so at least they know of it, and I was able to get diagnosed. But at this point, at least in my area, there's still nothing to do about it. There aren't like groups. They really don't even have any kind of treatment for it, which is really sad. And as far as treatment, it's just like understanding what our needs and struggles are, and how to tackle those in a therapy type of scenario. I've often thought about starting some kind of group locally. I know there are other Aspies in this area in town, but it's just, I don't want to put that on myself right now. It takes I've tried to do stuff like that in the past, and it just takes effort. It takes a lot of effort and planning, and I'm putting all of my effort and stuff like that into myself right now, and not into starting an Aspie community. But I want someone to. I want someone else to in my community. I just don't want to be the one to have to do that. It probably means I'm going to have to be the one to have to do it. Anyway, is there anything else? Not getting direct answers. Oh, yeah, I do want to point out, in case I didn't point out in my last video, that going to therapy and going to group was so helpful and worth it, if not just for the practice of alleviating social anxiety, because every week I had 2 appointments that I knew were coming and that I had to go to, and that I eventually felt like were safe places. And so my mind knew that I was going to go there and I wasn't going to be made fun of. I wasn't going to be judged in a negative way, that it really was, for most intents and purposes, a safe place. And having that every week was so helpful. It was really stressful at first. I quit at the beginning because it was just, having both group and therapy at first was so overwhelming, but I stuck with it and it got easier, and it's just helped so much with my social anxiety, just as a practice, just to practice going to a safe place with other people that you don't know that well, and having everything be okay. And it's helped so much with that. um Frank, there is no cure. Good, but ASD can be the cause of other social struggles. I think therapy can help with unraveling that. Yeah, exactly. And making it a little less overwhelming. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not trying to cure. I don't think my aspiness needs a cure. I don't think that's the issue. I think, Frank, I think you know that too, is what you're saying. Uh, I just wanted so bad for someone to identify with me, and to say, I see you. I see your struggles, and I couldn't get that, but that's okay. Like, on that level, when it came to being neurodiverse and a neurotypical world. And then sometimes, I have found that when you have a third party who is educated about whatever topic, they can see things that you can't see. They can see things that you're dealing with and that on you and that are part of you, that may be a byproduct of being neurodivergent, that you can't necessarily see on yourself because you don't have that outside perspective. And other people on here have encouraged me, that if you can find a therapist who's familiar with ASD, that it can be really enlightening and helpful. And that's what I was hoping for. The I didn't really find that this time around when it came to being on the spectrum. We only focused on PTSD, but that's still good. I mean, I had my PTSD has improved so much. It is still something that lurks around a little bit, and I'll probably be shaking it off for a while. I mean, who knows? You can have PTSD your whole life, or you can get over it. I think it just, what she was saying is that it just depends on the client and what they went through and all kinds of stuff. So uh, overall, I think it was worth it. I'm excited to have a break, and with group hasn't been enlightening either. Don't go to therapy or group thinking you're going to be enlightened. But it was group was great for accountability, and to have a place where like, everyone in my group had PTSD, and so it was great to be able to, like, talk about issues that you deal with that only other PTSD people deal with, and even if the proctor or the counselor or whatever couldn't really identify with everyone, we could. And that was so healing for PTSD. That was what I wanted with ASD, but it was healing in this aspect as well. And it was also great for accountability, just like reminding myself, that I need to remember to do this. When I encounter new people, I need to think about boundaries. Don't forget, there's just so many things that when you don't have them modeled for you ever growing up, and that you weren't conditioned to think about, you weren't conditioned to think about keeping yourself safe on an emotional level or a mental level. And so it was good to have that constant reminder and that connection with other people who are going through kind of the same kind of symptoms that you're going through, even though you all have different stories. And I was really anxious. I was really excited to get in group. That was my goal. And when I started this therapy journey, and I'm glad that I was right about that has actually been so healing, and something that I am continuing with, and I don't mind continuing with as long as I feel like it helps me. I feel like I can go back and forth on the one-on-one therapy. I'm actually not excited to restart it again in like 6 weeks, but I'll be with a different person. So I'm just going to see how it goes. I have a couple more questions we're going to get off because this is such a long one, guys. This is such a long one. Being ASD can cause depression and therapy can help with that. Yeah. Maybe I have found a therapist here. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, awesome. That is a fantastic way to put it. Someone to see you. Yeah, someone who sees you. That's all. It helps so much when you just have someone who can really see what you go through. And for some reason, it really helps. Any experience with shamanism? I would love to talk about that. I don't think I'm going to talk about that right now, because one, it's just so long, and that's a whole other topic. And I want to be very sensitive about using that word, about using the word shamanism, and but that is something that has that kind of in my healing, especially before I got into therapy, and maybe sometime soon. I don't know. Maybe I'll make a video talking more about that. It's just it's something that you really can't understand if you haven't experienced it. And like I said, I'm not going to say that I went through any sort of shamanic experience. I've never been to a shaman or anything. It's just because I was on my own, but I do feel like that the medicine that I was able to find um, reminded me of something that felt shamanistic. That's what I will say. It's just, I want to be really sensitive with that topic. It is from a culture that I do not own. But at the same time, it is such a healing experience that I think resonates with humanity. A lot of different cultures have a type of shamanism or come from a type of shamanism in their history. Anyway, guys, this has been really great. And I hope that you found this video helpful. I need to go because it's always almost 40 minutes. But it's been so great to talk with you guys, and I'll try to update again later, sometime soon. You know how it goes. All right. Have a good day. Have a good day, Old School Dave. Bye, Frank. Bye, Soko. Bye, everybody. Tim, nice to see you. And I'll catch you guys later. Bye.